All right, so the first question we have is, how can members get experience in both paid internships and research? Do members get clinical experience as well? And this is a question by Isha Das, and we'll have it answered by Jake.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Jake. I'm a general member of Emra. I joined last year. So basically, Emra opens up a lot of doors for UCLA undergrads. I think it's a really wonderful experience. There are a few ways in which you can get deeper involved in the research that we do or involved in other people's research just by the exposure that Emra gives you. So like, for example, we have SRAs who are like paid researchers who are basically on the top of our organization and are like in charge of organizing the coordinators, and they're like paid and out of college and getting paid for their research work. There are students who are involved as work study participants where they can manage some of the studies and do more research with Emra and get paid for it as well. But also Emra just provides you a lot of new experiences and new people that you can network with so that you can get involved in other labs or more research down the line. So Emra definitely opens doors for you. And if you are interested in paid positions or getting more involved in the research that we do with Emra, there's definitely ways for general members to take on more responsibility or get involved in other things.
Thanks, Jake. So this next question is it possible to apply as a current freshman? And we'll have Miles answer that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Miles. I joined Emra in spring 2018, I believe. And then right now I serve as head coordinator of the program. So the short answer is yes, we do accept fall freshmen and we encourage fall freshmen to apply. I think actually most of the Emras we have here got into the program as first years. I myself got in as a first year. And I think same with Rada, Akil, Garrett, and probably much more that I'm not mentioning. But we do ask that you guys submit your most recent high school transcript. So if you anticipate that taking quite a bit of time, I would get started on that now.
All right, thank you. And this next question is also for Miles. Are new freshmen encouraged to apply to the program?
Yes, absolutely. So I think I can kind of shed a bit of light onto the situation. I think even though I've been in the program for a long time, it was only until the last year or two where I really thought I would get something out of the program. Because at first, when I first joined, I was a bit timid and I kind of just wanted to do my job well. But I think the longer that I was in the program, the more I appreciated the opportunities that the program had to offer. And then that's when I really started to be able to break out of my shell. So I think the more time you have in this program, the better.
Thank you. So this next question is for Grace, and it says, what's the approximate time commitment per week, month, etc., if accepted?
Hi, my name is Grace. I have been in Emra since fall 2018. And I'd say currently, since we are working remotely, our time commitment is a hard minimum of 14 hours of Emra-related things or volunteer hours for the fall quarter. And that also includes attending 3 general Emra meetings that we have currently going on this quarter. And when we're back in the hospital, it's usually 6 hours a week. So 1 4-hour shift that is sort of like our regular shift. And then we have a 2-hour clinical or clerical shift. And that is in addition to attending quarterly GMs as well.
Thank you. So this next one is for Garrett. Are there any academic prerequisites or recommendations, i.e. are there any classes that should be taken or a certain group of majors that are common?
Hi guys, I'm Garrett. I'm one of the current coordinators right now. So short answer is no. We don't have any requirements as far as your coursework here at UCLA. We accept anyone regardless of coursework or major. You don't actually even have to be attending UCLA. As far as groups of majors that are common, we tend to gravitate towards South Campus majors, not because that's who we want in our program, but that's who typically applies. As our program is very medicine focused, I think a lot of South Campus people tend to be more medicine focused. But anyone from any major, any coursework is welcome to apply.
Thank you. So this next one is about the application itself and says how many letters of recommendation are required, and if they are required, when are the letters due? And so this will be requested after you submit your written application. Usually we ask for a minimum of 1 letter of recommendation. It's in the form of a Google form, so not necessarily a letter of recommendation. And you can find more details on that through our application itself once it opens. And you are not limited to 1, so you can also give many recommendations. And this next question asks, on the website, it says that applicants shouldn't be a member of a different hospital volunteering program. Does this still apply since all the volunteer programs are currently paused? So this is a bit of a complex question because it depends on the department that you're in and also the program that you're in. You may have some limited hours, a minimum hour requirement, and also a maximum hour requirement. I know there's a 20-hour limit for clinical opportunities, especially in the emergency department. And so I definitely recommend emailing Ucla Emra staff at Gmail just to ask about a specific program that you might be in that may conflict. And we'll also hopefully have one of our managers, Trisha, who can answer more questions about dual applications or dual entrance in different programs.
I have a bit of knowledge on this. I'm not sure if this is completely accurate, but I believe the most stringent requirement is that you're not allowed to start 2 UCLA health programs at a time. So I think, well, care extenders is probably the most common example. So for example, you can't start care extenders and Emra at the same time, but I believe if you have done the minimum requirement for care extenders and you've completed it, then it should be okay for you to start Emra.
Yes.
Same with, or I don't know if Scope is UCLA Health affiliated, but if it is, then it would probably be the same thing. But like Radha said, I would ask someone from the volunteer office. That's probably a better bet.
Thanks, Miles. So this next question is for Garrett. How common is it for Emra students to be co-authors of research papers?
So the short answer is uncommon. It's not impossible, but it's not likely. So the way authorship on papers go is typically you have to make a significant intellectual contribution or a significant contribution to the actual like paper product itself. So that would include either like writing part of the paper or things like that. Emra's role in research tends to be more around enrollment, screening, consenting of patients into studies. So getting the actual patients enrolled into the studies than it is more data analysis or things like that. So we do have opportunities for select Emras, depending on how good a standing you are in the program. These opportunities are kind of few and far between because it kind of depends on availability. But sometimes our faculty mentors will reach out to us that you know, a paper opportunity is available for a resident who needs help writing. And that's one potential way some members have gained authorship. Another thing, this is not quite authorship, but Emra does do poster days. So we've participated in the last 2 poster days through the Undergraduate Research Center. And that, while it's not authorship, it is getting your name on a poster, and you could definitely work on a poster as part of Emra. So short answer is not common, but possible.
Thanks, Garrett. So this next question is, who is eligible to apply? I am a Ucla alumni, graduated in 2019, and we'll have Miles answer that.
Yes. Hello, UCLA alumni. You are eligible to apply. I believe the only really strict requirement is you have to be over 18. That's just a volunteer office requirement.
So this next question is from Somali. The first one is, yes, this session is recorded and we'll be posting it on our website and YouTube. And the second one is, are there any unforeseen difficulties that current members face with time commitments or workload management at the start of their involvement, and any advice I might have? And this will be given to Justin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Justin, and I joined Emra fall of 2019. And in terms of the unforeseen difficulties and in terms of time management, in reality, there's really not much time management issues because from the start, it's very clear that the coordinators communicate to you that you need to volunteer 4 hours in your first quarter, and then 6 hours per week every other quarter after your first quarter joining Emra. And because you know this, I would advise you just to maybe take the first quarter that you're volunteering for Emra and maybe take a lighter course load so you're really prepared to show up and volunteer 6 hours a week. But if you really think about it, 6 hours per week isn't really too much. So I think the time commitment is very manageable if you're on top of all the things, all your commitments. And then I think the second question was about unique skills and experiences. I would say that it's helpful to have good people skills because you interact with patients, fellow Emras and physicians during your shift. So if you're able to communicate well, then you can make the shift go a lot more smoother. You don't really need any unique skills, but if you do have unique skills and experiences, that definitely adds to the diversity of Emra. And when we have things like research clubs, general information meetings, and presentations, hearing about your unique skills and experiences definitely makes Emra a more diverse and exciting place.
Thanks, Justin. So this next question is for Akil. Is an official UCLA GPA required for the Emra application? In other terms, can first years still apply for Emra in the fall cycle?
Hey guys, I'm Akil. I'm also one of the coordinators, and I joined in spring of 2019. The short answer to this question is also yes. Like Miles stated earlier, we do allow freshmen to join this program, and they are allowed to apply in their fall quarter. So in that terms, you can use your high school GPA on your application if you are a fall freshman applying. So that's basically the answer to that question.
Thank you. So this next question is, if I turn 18 in late November, will I still be able to apply during this recruitment cycle? I believe Trisha just joined, our manager. Are you able to answer this?
Yeah, I mean, for this cycle, we're still gonna have you guys be onboarded and everything. And then in terms of coming back into the hospital, we don't necessarily know when you guys can come back into the ED, but we do know that hopefully by like January or December, we'll have you guys come back on site to our office where you can like still screen and help us out with all of our studies.
Thank you. This next question is for Katie. So what does a typical day of volunteering look like at the hospital for an Emra member?
Hello, I'm Haiti. I've been in Emra since spring 2019. So our typical shifts or like our weekly shifts are 4 hours long. And we have an office on the 8th floor in the hospital where we spend the majority of the time screening for patients that could potentially be in one of our studies. Our program is really unique in that we have access to Care Connect, which is like the patient chart system for the hospital. So we get to see all the patients coming into the ED in real time and their chief complaints, and we have access to their charts. So we spend time going through those patients and seeing if any of them fit for our studies. We also respond to traumas and a couple of other studies that we get pages for. And once we do find a patient that could potentially qualify for one of our studies, we go down to the emergency department. We kind of coordinate with the residents and the nurses and figure out whether this patient really would qualify for our study. And if they do, we talk to the patient for some of our studies about enrolling and have them fill out the consent forms and everything. And for some of our studies, the SRAs do that or the residents do that for us. So that's kind of a general overview.
Thank you for that. The next question is for Grace. Actually, sorry, I'm jumping around a bit. This one is for Rithik. Are there any additional things like letters of rec still needed for the application, and what else?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Rithik and I'm a coordinator with Emra. I've been in the program since the fall of 2018. So to answer this question, as Radha mentioned previously, for some of our applicants, we will ask for letters of rec, but that happens a little bit later into the recruitment process, prior to secondary interviews, and all the logistics of that will be communicated to you pretty efficiently by then. But other than that, we just would love your enthusiasm and a positive attitude and your passion for Emra.
Thanks, Rithik. So next we have Caroline answering, where do Emra members end up at after graduation? What are the outcomes?
Hey guys, I'm Caroline. I joined, I would say spring 2019. I just graduated this year, so one of the opportunities that usually comes up are usually job opportunities. Because Emra, we are so diverse and we have a lot of friends from different medical communities, they'll usually just pop up and be like, hey, we have this job opportunity available for Emra members or for whoever, and it'd be amazing if one of you guys apply. So we have a lot of job opportunities. We also have research opportunities. So yeah.
To quickly add to what Caroline said, one of our previous coordinators, Sarah Lee, who just graduated, she started an alumni network within Emra. So if you actually go to our website, there should be an alumni tab where you can find where our limited database of members end up, whether it be med school, nursing school, or if they're in residency.
Thank you both. So this next one is for Akil. I don't have any experience with research yet. Will this affect my chances of getting in?
Hey guys, so for this question, I actually applied without any research experience when I got into Emra. So I would say definitely does not affect your chances of getting into Emra. We view all of our applicants holistically, and we understand that as freshmen, finding research opportunities can be difficult. And for a lot of people, Emra will be their first experience with research. However, having a research background does expedite your ingratiation to this program when it comes to learning the training processes and all of those types of things. Having a foundation of research knowledge will help you understand things more quickly. However, training members is approached with the idea that these members may not have any experience with research. So I would say even without research, it will not affect your chances of getting into Emra and thriving in Emra were you to get in.
Thank you. So this next one is for Garrett. What experience do you view to be helpful or valuable in the Emra program?
So there's no like one thing in particular that you need to get. Like Akil said, having experience with research is helpful, but it's not required. You definitely need to be professional. We're working with healthcare professionals a lot in Emra, and a lot of Emra is learning how to communicate well. So professionalism will go a long way. You need to be a quick learner and be able to think on your feet. Another big part about Emra is problem solving while you're on shift. Oftentimes things are not very straightforward. You have to use your knowledge of protocols and use your baseline knowledge from training in order to interpret whether a patient will get enrolled or not. And so you need to be able to think on your feet quick, communicate well, and be professional. Additionally, we're looking for hard workers, people who are really going to give a lot to the program, and people who are going to be creative and make the most out of their experience in the program, because it's an excellent opportunity and we don't want you to have an experience that goes to waste.
Thanks, Garrett. So this next question is, how have the experiences you gained from Emra impacted your career inclinations? And that's for Haiti.
Yeah, so I came into Emra knowing that I wanted to go into medicine, and I think a lot of members either know that or kind of leaning towards that, even though it's not necessarily a requirement to be a part of the program. But definitely being in Emra and having the experience of clinical research has made me realize more that I do want to go into medicine, but kind of also leaning towards more of a research-based career, which I didn't know that I wanted to do until I joined Emra. We have a couple of committees too within the program that members can join. And one of them is the research committee, which I joined when I first got into the program, and it pushed me to become a biomedical research minor, and now has further pushed me to possibly pursue a PhD instead of just an MD, which has definitely changed my career path quite a bit.
Thank you for that. So the next question is, what are some recommendations you have to help us make the most of the Emra experience? And this will go to Grace.
Yeah, so since our requirements are pretty minimal compared to what you can get out of the program, you only just have to show up on shift, but obviously you can do so much more within the program. So honestly, Emra is something that it is what you make of it. And as Haiti mentioned and Garrett also mentioned, there's so many different committees that you can join. If you're interested in mentorship, Miles plugged our alumni network, but we also can pair you with an Emra alumnus or a person who is currently in Emra who's an upperclassman. You can be a mentor yourself. You can join our research committee, participate in journal clubs, even attend resident journal clubs that the residents at Ronald Reagan are having. Again, there's so many different opportunities for you to just explore your interests within what the program has to offer. And I think one of my best recommendations is to just jump in full-fledged.
Thank you. So this next question is for Miles, and a few of you have asked this question, so make sure to pay attention. What advice do you have for people applying the second time, third time, etc.?
Yeah, so I think the big thing here is feedback, and it's just important to recognize that the Emra coordinator team does take reapplicants very seriously because it shows that you have continued interest in the program. So I think the basic line of advice I would give is just to really think about the feedback we gave you, if we did give you feedback, and then just take that to heart. And then I guess as for general application advice, there are like certain things you can control. Like you should do your homework, know what the studies are, know why you want to be in the program. I think those are pretty basic things that you should have knowledge of. And then I would encourage you guys to think about what your role is going to be as an Emra and how you can help the organization. Because if you think about it this way, like a lot of our tasks are talking to patients or talking to residents. So the ability to communicate your thoughts is very important. As you guys might have seen from the info sessions, a lot of the terminology in the study is pretty esoteric. So it's useful for you to be able to analyze that information and then convey it to a lay audience.
Thank you. So the next one is for Shivam. What are Emra experiences like during the pandemic? Is it being done remotely?
All right, everyone. My name's Shivam Rana. I'm actually a member of the newest cohort, so I joined in spring of this year. And my whole Emra experience has actually been during the pandemic. So I've enjoyed it thoroughly. Yes, it's being done remotely. We obviously aren't in the hospital doing clerical shifts and the work that you would be doing to enroll and consent patients, but I have been able to join a few workshops for protocols where we get to work on the protocols that we would be using in the emergency department to enroll patients. There have also been many journal clubs and Emra days where we get to discuss some of the emergency medicine, and Emra days where we get to get updated on what's going on with our organization, and we get to have a little bit of social activity at the end with the rest of the Emra team.
All right, thank you. So this next question is for Rithik. What kind of opportunities do Emras have in interacting with the faculty sponsors? Also, do you have any advice for reapplicants? And thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course. So I can break the first question down about interaction with faculty sponsors into like two different aspects of it. So one of them is a lot of our faculty sponsors actually come to our general meetings, and they're able to provide a lot of feedback and oversight and just like answer a lot of cool questions. So for example, at our latest GM, we had Dr. Rochelle Cooper, who's one of our faculty sponsors, and she was actually able to enlighten a lot of Emras on what's happening at Ronald Reagan right now, what type of clinical research is going on, how the hospital is looking like in terms of COVID. And so that's really interesting. And then also another aspect of our interaction with faculty sponsors is really highlighted when we have poster days in the spring. And so we have a lot of interaction with faculty sponsors who like go over the material with us and then are able to provide one-on-one feedback and recommendations on how to proceed. And then in regards to the second question for reapplicants, I think that's a great question. I was actually a reapplicant. So I think my first piece of advice would just be to actually sit down and learn more about Emra and attend sessions like these and really understand why you want to join the organization. And then I think the second thing would be the biggest thing right now is just I myself am not that great of an interviewer and it's much harder on Zoom. I definitely understand that. So maybe just like figure out why you're so passionate about Emra and try to be as genuine as possible and conversational. We're students as well, and we just want to learn more about why you're passionate about our program.
Thanks for that, and I agree with all of the above. So this next question is, due to the nature of the pandemic and how many UCLA students won't be on campus during the fall quarter, will Emra be requiring its applicants or members to be on campus, or will there be an online opportunity as well?
Yeah, so currently Emra is being run completely online. And then even if we were to go back to campus, which hopefully will happen, it would most likely be optional. There's more important things in your lives going on.
All right, so this next one is for Akil. How is the program being run with the current state? Are we allowed to still work at Ronald Reagan, or will research and duties be conducted online? Kind of a similar question.
Yeah, so this is a similar question to the one Miles just answered, but like Miles said, all of the Emra program currently is online through virtual means. Grace also answered this question earlier about our time commitment. Currently, we have a 14-hour quarterly requirement of Emra-related activities, which are fulfilled through solely virtual means. One thing to look out for, though, is like what Miles said, if we were to return in some semblance of like a on-campus format, it would be optional, but we are working to find a way to have remote screening from like a Bank of America suite where like social distancing and precautions are possible. And so we're looking on ways to transition our experience to be as enriching as possible for those of you that would want to be in person, while maintaining flexibility for potential members that don't have the means to come back and be in Westwood.
Thank you. So this next handful of questions is for Trisha, and it's about kind of admin related and programs in addition to Emra. So the first one is, can we still apply if we are part of another volunteering organization, for example, care extenders?
Yeah, so you can definitely still apply, even if you're going to apply for care extenders. However, you have to finish your minimum required hours with care extenders. I think it's 50 hours before you could be onboarded as a volunteer with us. Because everything is remote and hospital onboarding isn't really going on right now, we have been working with the volunteer office to kind of figure this out. But I would definitely say, like, yes, you can. Because we will definitely make sure that you complete your 50 hours with Emra in the case that the other organization doesn't have a means for you to finish your 50-hour minimum requirement. And if you're wondering why there's a 50-hour minimum requirement, that's not something that we have personally. It's just something that the volunteer office dictates because they don't want students to be program hopping. And essentially what that means is they want to make sure that you have joined a program and that you're fully committed to it, and you can show that commitment through a minimum of 50 hours before you add another commitment on top of that.
Thanks, Trisha. So this next question is for Rithik. Has COVID impacted the work that you were able to do as an organization?
Yeah, so as a lot of other organizations on campus, COVID definitely has. I think one of my favorite parts of being an Emra was being like at the hospital and screening and consenting patients. But with that, I actually gained a lot of favorite parts of Emra once we went online. And I think we've been really experimenting with new opportunities for members. We're bringing in a lot of our alumni, we're bringing in guest speakers, and then we're really trying to get Emras involved in the clinical research process here at UCLA. So whether it's through new work study positions where you get to work one-on-one with our staff research associates, or whether it's through protocol design workshops where you get to create your own protocol, we're really trying to maximize Emra's experiences. So it's definitely a new normal, but it's still great as it is.
Perfect. So this next question is for Garrett. Has Emra done research on pre-hospital care or EMS? Is there an opportunity to work with faculty directly on trail experiment development?
So not really. We haven't specifically done a study on that. Although the interesting thing is that we are kind of, in a way, starting one. So we're starting this study called IceCap, and it's focused on cardiac cooling of comatose patients after cardiac arrest. And so that is definitely taking into account pre-hospital care as part of the study, but it's not specifically a pre-hospital care study. And to address the second part of this question, there is an opportunity, but you're not going to really work on trial development as much as developing the protocols that Emra works on. So specifically in the screening and enrolling of patients, that is the part you'll get to work on. You won't necessarily work on like larger trial development or something like that.
Thanks, Garrett. So next question, open for anyone to answer. There's 3 questions for this. Can students from UC Merced apply? Can undocumented students apply? And what's the minimum GPA? Feel free to tackle any of that.
UC Merced, yes. Undocumented students, I'm not exactly sure. Minimum GPA varies by quarter, but I think as someone said earlier, it's a holistic process. So I wouldn't worry about your GPA too much.
I can answer undocumented. If you're part of DACA, yes.
And just to talk more about the GPA, I know there's a couple of questions about that, but during the recruitment process, we do have a GPA that we kind of look at to consider all the applicants, but it doesn't necessarily exclude your application if you are below that GPA. We tend to look at all the applications, as Miles said, holistically, and there's also a chance for you to explain if you have any discrepancies in your GPA, grades, etc. We really want to look at you all holistically and give you the opportunity to be a part of this program because we know your GPA doesn't reflect you as an applicant and any experiences and skills that you have. So we put a huge emphasis on your actual resume, the essays you write, and just who you are as a person. So this next question is, on the recruitment website, it mentions a recommendation letter for those who get a secondary interview. Are there restrictions on who the recommender can be?
Yeah, so I would say there's no really hard restrictions. Probably you would want someone that can speak to you on a professional or an academic level. Like your mom probably wouldn't be the best one to write you a letter of rec, but I think I myself had a recommendation from my boss when I was a dishwasher at a fried chicken restaurant. So just someone that can attest to you being accountable or reliable would be great.
Thanks, Miles. So for Garrett, around what year do most members get accepted into the org?
So our recruitment averages our second year, but we definitely, every single recruitment cycle without fail, we take someone from every single year, including a post-grad. So like you're never excluded by being a certain year. The most common are first and second years that we have apply, but that's mostly just our applicant pool, but anyone can get in from any year.
Thanks. And so this next one is, what are your guys' favorite parts or experiences about Emra? And Grace will take it.
Yeah, so we have a pretty high turnaround of studies. So one of their completed studies was called the Whole Blood Study. And one of the great parts about Emra that distinguishes us from a lot of other Ronald Reagan programs is that you really get a holistic experience of what medicine is like and how different departments can work together to treat a patient. So specifically for the Whole Blood Study, we were able to not only attend traumas, but follow them up to wherever they went in case they got a blood transfusion. And so we were able to follow them up to surgery. We can observe surgeries and imaging such as like CAT scans and IR. And I think that's something that's super unique about our program is that not only do we get a super high turnaround of studies, so you can really just learn about a lot of things that cover an already broad specialty, but you also get to see the cooperation of multiple departments from Emra.
Thanks, Grace. So this next question is for Rithik. What leadership opportunities are available in Emra?
Yeah, so because of COVID restrictions, we've actually been really pushing for additional research and leadership opportunities to be available for our Emras. So I can kind of break it down into 3 different opportunities. We have a lot of opportunities for liaisons, and those are individuals who are really passionate about particular committees in Emra and want to take on a leadership role and really help with administrative and like organizing different events. So that could be for the recruitment committee, and that's the committee that Radha is in charge of. So if you're really passionate about meeting potential Emras, or we have a mentorship committee, and if you're really passionate about getting Emras connected with other Emras and alums, that's something that for you. We also have opportunities to become a work study that come up kind of spontaneously, but that's a really great opportunity for you to work one-on-one, as I mentioned, with the staff research associates, and you actually get to go really in depth about how clinical research works at a large research hospital like Ronald Reagan, and like all through the process from how trials get approved, how data is collected and patients are consented, and then what happens after. And the last leadership position that I'd like to highlight is becoming a coordinator. I think that's you've heard a lot of coordinators speak today, and I'm sure you can see that we're all really passionate about Emra and really getting everyone who is also passionate about our mission and goals integrated into our program. And you have a lot of opportunities to grow through the program and then also help others grow too.
Agreed. So now we have Miguel, who's going to talk about accepting transfer students and what transfer students should consider on their application.
Hi, everyone. I joined in fall 2018, and I was actually a transfer student. So yes, as they said before, the application is overall holistic. And when it comes to considering the application, I had nothing. Like, I didn't really have any clinical experience. I didn't have any research experience. I had some shadowing, but overall, I just sold myself. I said I was unique. You just have to be say why you're unique and why you're different and what you could bring to the program. Honestly, I believe Emra was one of my best experiences because as a transfer, I suffered from imposter syndrome. I didn't think I belonged here, and being a part of Emra and joining the Emra family just made me feel like I belong somewhere, and that helped me get over my imposter syndrome. And overall, I'm very happy to meet everybody. And as they said, there's many experiences with Emra, and please, please, please apply. You can get in.
Thanks, Miguel. I'm just going to briefly go through a couple questions. We recruit in the fall and the spring usually. We're not sure exactly how it'll look this time, but it should be the same for that. And right now I'm going to transfer it to Miles, who's going to take over questioning and moderating the questions while I work on breakout rooms. And just to give you a little heads up for that, if you want to stay for the breakout rooms, please, please, please stay with cameras on, audio on. You get to talk to our members and our coordinators and maybe ask directly the questions that weren't answered today that you wanted to ask. And I'll be managing that in a second.
Cool. First question, does the high school transcript have to be an official transcript or will an unofficial one do? I'll let Trisha answer this one if she knows.
We can take the unofficial high school transcript because we understand that the process of going back to your high school, especially now with the pandemic, I'm sure some of the offices aren't open. So we're totally fine with accepting an unofficial transcript. Kind of the same thing goes for UCLA too now, but we do try to push for an official transcript. If they're able to mail it directly to us, or if you're able to get it mailed to yourself and then scan it, that would be really helpful.
Great. Thanks, Trisha. How long is the program? 1 year minimum. Most members stay for longer. Is it online? Currently, it is online. Since UC Merced, oh, sorry, this is Akil's question. Since UC Merced is a semester system, I know spring is going virtual. What if in the future we have to go back to campus? How could this affect it?
Yeah, so I'm assuming this person is someone that goes to UC Merced and is currently back home in the LA area and wants to join our program. I would say yes, it's very ambitious and it's kind of a risky scenario, however, because if we were to return to in-person activities, you would be required to come and participate in person at the hospital after COVID settles, obviously. Like we should have a grace period for that upon initiating the return to campus. But like once Emra returns to normal, the crux of our organization is in-person clinical experience at the hospital. So I would definitely see that as a potential hurdle you would have to overcome as a student from UC Merced. However, if you have a way of making that work where you can be in the area and show up for your shifts, I don't see any reason why that would prevent you from being part of our program.
Thanks, Akil. We're running a bit short on time, so I'm just going to try to breeze through these. How's the application process, interviews? Application will be open tomorrow night, so I'll leave some suspense there. There's going to be 2 rounds of interview. The first one is going to be with 1 or 2 of the coordinators plus some general members. The next one's going to be all coordinators. Do current UCLA students have to submit their high school transcript too? Not necessary, especially if it's in the fall. You have a year's worth of UCLA grades. I think this should more than suffice. Can you speak to the breakdown of the organization? How many UCLA to non-UCLA students, and if there is a preference for undergrad or postgrad students? No preference. The majority of our students are UCLA students because that's the majority of our applicant pool. But I mean, I think it'd be pretty exciting to have a non-UCLA student here. Is there a maximum length of stay with Emra? I don't believe so, but I don't think this has ever been tested. About how many applicants are accepted each recruitment season, it's going to vary from anywhere between maybe like 8 and 20. That definitely is a pretty intimidating statistic, but I think to hopefully calm your nerves and encourage you to apply, I do think that this statistic is a bit of a misnomer because there is a lot of applicants who are more than qualified to be in the program that we sadly have to reject. So if you are truly interested in the program and you want to be a part of it and you know enough about the program, just apply. Like, you never know. If you were accepted to, let's say, Stroke Team and Emra, could you accept both offers and just delay enrollment until minimum hours for one of the programs is completed? This is kind of a rare case. I know 2 people that are in Stroke Team and Emra, but I believe in the case of the first, he was able to delay enrollment, but I'm not sure how it would work now. I would say good luck getting into both. Can you detail exactly what the duties are and what you study? So I would say pretty much our shift is being broken down into screening, communication, and enrollment. So screening, we have maybe anywhere from 4 to 8 studies at a time, and all the Emras are responsible for knowing and being active in each of the studies. So a large part of our on-shift duty is us looking at patient charts and kind of analyzing the data there and see if they would fit within one of our studies. And then from there, we're in communication with the SRAs as well as the residents to hopefully get them enrolled. And then if we pass those barriers, then we would enter the patient's room, consent them, and hopefully log them in our database.